Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Welcome to Never Been Promoted. Hello, I'm your host, Thomas Elfrick. Fresh off a new haircut. Don't even need my little air fader feather. See that? It's all about being silly. Here it is. It's, I'm not sure when you're going to hear this, but at the time of year, it's around Christmas time right now. And we're going to be talking about branding. And I think it's a super important conversation, not just because branding's like at the core of how people feel what you do and get to know you and trust you. As you head into any new venture or a new year, it's a chance for you to look at what is your brand. And, are you trying to be like everyone else? Are you trying to find your own space? And it's a part of your journey as an entrepreneur that is, it's a little more difficult than you think it is, because initially you might think it's logos and colors and how your website looks or something. And the truth is, it's how people feel about you. It's what they're saying about you when you're not around, and in how they, find a sense of urgency for what you do. And that's difficult to do, because that's going to sometimes, when you're the entrepreneur that might be the center of the brand, you may have to come out of your shell a little bit. You might have to make something a little more original. You might have to cut a tie off that your wife gave you. I'm just saying, it works. We're going to be joined today by Mark Abbas. He is the founder of Abbas Marketing Collaborative, and he's on a journey himself of trying entrepreneurship and getting out there, and has some really good experience with brand and digital marketing. And we're going to talk about just that, his journey itself, but also like how he's building his business, and he's in the early stages. So if you're in the marketing space, or you're trying to build your own brand company, or even just trying to learn more about branding, he's going to be a really good guest to listen to, because he's done it for a career, and he's about to go do it for others. And he loves challenger brands, which are people not like Coca-Cola. So, all right. Before we get to him, one shameless plug, if you will. Today I'm going to ask you to go to the podcast, download an episode on Apple and or Spotify, and listen to it. And I hope you like it. And if you can give a 5-star review, please do. It's super important for guests, for our mission. And it means a lot to me personally too. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening to that shameless plug. How do I get this thing on there? It's technology in the way. Mark, come up on stage here. Where'd you go? Are you up there? You're on. Oh, there you are. Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? We're both in Atlanta.
We are. Woodstock, technically.
I mean,
the other
I'm up
Woodstock.
in Alpharetta. It's probably as I was looking, by the way. I believe we're north of you. I was looking at the map correctly. I think we're north of Kennesaw, even, which is, to me, I feel like that's Chattanooga almost. But like, I looked at the map, I know. I was making fun of people. I'm like, oh shit, I'm like 8 miles north of them. I'm like, oh my God, we're north.
You're up
Suburbia, people.
Yeah.
Suburbia. It's the way you do Atlanta.
That's right.
Just drive.
That's right.
Want to go to Walmart? 10 minutes.
Right.
Want to go for a walk? Also 10 minutes.
Yes.
So everything's 10 minutes.
Yes.
Thanks for joining today. Mark, you're just early on this adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Abbas. Did I say Abbas? I can't remember now if I mispronounced your name.
Abbas. Yes.
Abbas. Mark Abbas. That's Abbas.
You could say that 12 more. No. But no, thank you for asking. Yes. It's been pronounced many ways. I have fun with it.
Wait, you know what? My name, like, how do you say your last name? And if I found out about you, there's two things that happen: Helfrich or Helfrish, or if they're German, they say it right. And I'm like, yeah, you're German. I mean, I don't know, you say it the way you think you should. But it's my first name. People are like, do you go by Thomas? And I'm thinking, that's why I put the word Thomas in front of my name.
That's right.
Do you get people who go, do you go by Marcus? Like, does that ever happen to the Mark, or are you just Mark?
Just Mark, but sometimes it's with a C, sometimes with a K. Yeah. So you just go with it.
Even
when it's in your email signature, then you see a MARC in the message, and it's like, okay, now I'm MARC. I'll go with it.
I've seen Tomas.
Personality.
I just do. Then I reply. If someone puts it Tomas, I just reply in Spanish. Use GPT to convert it real quick.
Yes.
Hola, ¿cómo estás ustedes? Mark, you wanna start with what you started and what you're trying to do for the world or doing for the world, and then back up to kind of how you landed in the spot?
Yeah, absolutely. So Abbas Marketing Collaborative. I think the collaborative part says a lot about what I'm doing. And I'm basically a fractional CMO and a marketing consultant. And my, I guess, superpower, what I've done in my career is really try to do a good job of bringing people together, the right people, in the right places, to make impact on a brand. And my whole mission is to, help brands, especially in the built environment. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but to help brands and the people who are driving them to reach their full potential. And again, collaborating with the right people. That means, how do we pull the marketing strategy together, the brand? Who do I need for digital marketing? Who do I need for these different things that we do as part of marketing? And I just somehow have a knack for finding those people to work with, and then at the end of the day, hopefully getting the most out of the whole team to really achieve those those brand objectives.
How did you get into the space? In school or tripped?
Yeah, so I mean, going all the way back to when I was a kid, I had a grandmother that was just very creative. She was a painter. She played the harp. She was an English teacher. Lived on a farm in Iowa, so you don't always think that you're going to get your cultural kind of exposure by being on a farm, but that's kind of how it happened for me. And that was really what instilled my passion for creativity, drawing, all of those things that kind of form the foundation of what I love to do. And then as I got older, I was also drawn to the business world, and creating a brand is an act of creation, and it's also something that you're accomplishing. And I played sports when I was growing up, so I have this competitive side of me as well. So you have the right brain, left brain thing working to get you into marketing and advertising, and applying that creativity to win in the marketplace is kind of how I put that together. So that's what drew me to marketing, and first started my career in the agency world, and small agencies, and then getting bigger and bigger and more sophisticated in terms of how do you position a brand, how do you create a brand strategy, and then ultimately implement that. After some years in the agency world, I decided I want to go to the corporate side of marketing. The appeal of focusing on one brand was attractive, versus in the agency, you've got 4, 5, or 6 different brands you're working on, which is also attractive. But I wanted to try that, focus on one brand. So in my agency world, one of the brands I worked on was Pella Windows, and this was a very leading company in the window and door category, based in Iowa, and exposed me to B2C marketing, B2B channel marketing. How do you work with architects, designers, builders? And that kind of got me into the built environment and building products, home improvement. And it kind of went from there. And I've stayed in that mostly throughout my career. And I kind of carved out a niche in that arena.
So when I hear like Windows, right, like you're like a perfect fit for the solar, like all those things become some of the same value propositions of high investment, long-term recovery, beauty, whatever else, right? And the idea of working on one brand sounds amazing. It's funny because my company is instantly relevant, right? So it's a marketing agency specifically focused around maybe like, let's say, LinkedIn or podcasts. And I'm kind of like, it'd be interesting to have that flip where they just produce my stuff. Like my team
Right.
my own brands. We don't have customers. And I'm thinking that would be like, I think the team would like that, because they're like, oh my gosh, every time you get a new customer, you got to, it's like a whole thing you got to go through, and it's stressful, and it doesn't always work, to be fair, right? Sometimes you just, it's some brands that's, and people it doesn't work just at the end of the day. And maybe talk about that, because it's sometimes the leader itself or the people that have hired the agency, they don't know what they want, and they're looking on sometimes a place to blame others for not being able to find it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And talk to that a bit, because I know that's a real problem. And if you're like that out there, you can hang up. That's fine, because that's what you'll probably do now. But if you're working with somebody, first of all, just talk about that a bit, but how you maybe deal with it, because that's a real problem with being an agency.
Yeah. Well, and to lead into that, just quickly going back to the Pella brand, just a quick insight there. A high-end window brand, like you said, extreme extremely high investment as a part of the entire home construction process or remodeling. But if you're building a home, you're thinking about, do I put more money into the windows and doors? Do I put more money into the Sub-Zero, Wolf appliances in the kitchen? So you're competing against other categories. So that was really about, how do we elevate the importance of the window and door category broadly over this other category and make the window decision matter more? So I just wanted to bring that up in the
I'm actually surprised, Pella, by the way, just on that note, right? You do like a Sub-Zero, you get the vanity piece, you get the, oh, this is high end. No one notices windows. They notice they're nice. We have we're 1998 house, right? Painted the windows, they look new, right?
Right.
I'm surprised like a Pella or somebody else and said, hey, keep these things, and every 10 years you're eligible for some massive, like, we'll come back out and update them with the latest tech if it makes sense. And if they did that, then you'd be on the hook to almost like long-term subscription model of, oh, I bought the Pellas, and there's like that added value of, you're gonna get 50% off the next one because you're already our customer. And like, because the cost of sales goes to like nothing. It goes to one email 10 years later going, hey, it's 10 years in, here's all the new tech, all the new looks. Do you want it?
Completely.
Yeah. Right. I'm surprised they haven't done that because they would guaranteedly take away, they would take away the need for the reselling, additives, anyway. So there's always these 40% discounts, but they can even beat that because you're already here. You're guaranteed selling another set.
I think that's a great approach. And, like you said, you're only going to buy windows and doors. You might only buy them once for your home. They last that long. They're good. They're, good products. So you're probably, the next time you buy, you're probably, buying another house, or you're building another house.
Right.
So something in there that keeps you in as a customer, that keeps you tied in long-term to the brand. And it could be, other product categories. Could be another one as well. So let's expand to cabinetry or other wood products. And I know they did get into screen doors as well. But no, I think to your question about, I think it's the whole agency and marketing team collaborative approach. More and more, I think that companies are finding good combinations of, we've got some in-house team here. We've got some agency resources that, do specific things that they're good at. I think the spending enough time, and a lot of time up front with that whole team, just helping them understand certainly the business and what the business is trying to do, but what is really the brand strategy and where is the brand going, and making sure everybody knows that. And then once you have that alignment, then that's where the creativity really starts. And so I think it's, that understanding, but it's also just being human with the team and recognizing that each individual is a valuable member of that team, and whether they're higher or lower than you on the org chart, everybody's place is equally important. And just recognizing that we all have a purpose in our career, in our life, and we're all equal on this earth. And respecting people's time, I think that goes a long way. And that goes a long way certainly when you're dealing with customers. So do I respect the customer's time? Do I have a customer experience strategy that really pays off the brand? And then I'm able to tactically manage that customer experience through the feedback that mechanisms that we've set up. So that is a whole other topic of, how do you really manifest the brand strategy and the brand position with customer experience.
Yeah. Well, and you've set up what you call a marketing collaborative. Could you explain what that is exactly? Because I have my ideas on it, but rather have your definition.
Yeah. So I'm a fractional CMO, and I come in and I work with companies that maybe they can't afford a full-time CMO, but they can work with me and take advantage of my experience, of my 20 years of experience, and work on strategy, and then work on what are the priorities to really take this business forward. If it's a small company, and I've started to work with a couple of small companies, one is an Italian faucet manufacturer, the other is European shower pans and shower walls. And so these are companies that are relatively new to the US market. They're not going to immediately come in and scale to be one of the leaders in the market. They're going to do that incrementally. So the strategy is really critical on how to do that. So really one of the starting points is just where to play geographically. And I think for these smaller brands coming into the US market, pick a market or two, be successful there, then begin to expand into other geographies.
Yeah.
And certainly when you're dealing with a physical product, that's even more important.
Yeah. And even if you're not successful, just learn from the interaction of what works and what, so you can adjust. So you said you recently started this. Tell me about the last 6 months, 9 months of how you got, to this, and what's been kind of the tie to cut for you.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, most of my career has been kind of in that built environment arena, mostly working with products. So plumbing products, windows and doors, flooring, countertops. But a friend of mine years ago was working as the VP of IT for an energy company, and basically recruited me to join this company. It's a Dutch company that came into the U.S. market in 2017. And they started buying these propane businesses in Texas and surrounding states. So what attracted me to joining that role, joining that company, was just being in a category that you're selling directly to the end user, whereas in building products, you're typically a 2 or 3 step distribution. You don't always see how the marketing is working. You can't always see how quickly it's working and what's working and why not, or why. So that's what really attracted me to the propane business. Is you're selling direct with that homeowner or that commercial business that's using the product to heat their home or to run their business, and you can really see how it's working. So we spent a lot of time in marketing analytics, hired a marketing analyst to really pull the pieces together from the top of the funnel, creating brand awareness all the way through the conversion. So I did that for a couple of years, and they made some changes to the leadership team. They decided to pull everybody together into Dallas, and I decided I didn't want to move to Dallas and stay in Atlanta. And so that was in late summer. And so kind of been on this journey from then to determine, where do I go from here in my life and my career? And this ability to really sort of control my own destiny for the rest of my career as a fractional really was attractive to me, and to be an entrepreneur. And I enjoy the business development side. I enjoy the networking. I enjoy contributing to industry initiatives. So I've connected with executives at some of the key industry associations in the building products world. And I've also connected to a local executive networking and professional development group called Kettering, which has been tremendous. It's all about paying it forward, not only between the members, but also we work with a variety of charities as well, and trying to move those forward as well. So it's been an intense time of self-reflection, and also meeting and learning and knowing a lot of people like you and others that have helped me kind of get to this moment. And the other part of that is, of course, where marketing and business is going is so tied to AI, and working to develop an offering where we help people to incorporate AI into their marketing, and working with some partners on that.
Yeah. So for those listening, Mark is not 20. He's also probably not 50 either. So the point is, he's in that zone. When are you in 40s? What's your age?
50s.
Oh, you're 50. Oh, man, look,
Yeah.
let me tell you what. Either he uses Botox, or like, dude, you got to share. You got to get in the skincare products. So, but you're in that age, right, where ageism's real. This idea of, hey, we're going to bring everything close to us is a way to get rid of people. It is 100% way to get people that they can get cheaper. Like it's just a terrible disloyalty to the customer. I'm sorry, to the employee. And it happens all the time. And I feel your pain, because I've been through it a few times, and I've had tons of guests that have obviously been through the same thing you are. But you did this thing that a lot of people don't, but that I feel like they should, is, how do I take control of it moving forward? You're let's say you're 50, right? You're effectively almost like, just graduating college, and now you have all these years ahead of you to do something. So what do you want to do different on the back 9 here, right? And I applaud you for doing that, because you're married?
Yes.
So there's those conversations that happen of, you're gonna do what? You're gonna be a blogger? Like,
Right.
I'm gonna write posts, honey, and we're gonna get money. So if I can ask, like, so how did that because I forgot to kind of have that conversation with my wife, and that caused some fights and some therapy. But
Right.
So how did that conversation go when you're like, I'm done with that W-2 world?
No, I think definitely understanding. I mean, like you said, it really is a gig economy, as they say, and the corporate world has changed. My wife is in a corporate role as well, so and those some of those opportunities restructure, and there's constant restructuring going on. So you just while it can be a little less predictable, to be in control of your own destiny. Is the way to go for a lot of people like me. And there's a lot of resources out there to learn how to do it, to be inspired, and through Kettering, through people like Pat Romboletti, through people like you, Thomas. Dr. Chaz Austin is a coach out in Southern California, had a great book called How to Find Work for the Rest of Your Life, all based on this idea of, yes, it is a gig economy, and it could mean that you're in a 3-month engagement, then you've got another 3-month engagement. But I have more and more met people that have really made a good business out of being a fractional, whether it's a fractional CMO or a fractional VP of sales. That's also a big one, where a VP of sales comes in and helps to structure what's the incentive program, how do we align sales and marketing. And I hope to work with people like those folks as well, and bring in really expert people to the equation as well. If the company might be, maybe struggling a little bit with, how do we make sales and marketing work together, we can come in and give some ideas around that.
Part of what you just said there has to do with the definition of success. I think I think this is somewhat of an antiquated idea, or it's an idea that's sold to the youth of get rich, work for yourself. Yes, you have a potentially unlimited income when you work for yourself. You're definitely going to be limited when you work for others. But when you just describe like as a fractional, there is a limit to that as well, to some degree, because if you're going to build, exactly, so you're trading somewhat time for your knowledge, and that's totally fine. I mean, and I think the idea is, and I'd love to hear you say is, at a certain age, you realize, hey, listen, I'm probably not going to build $1 billion company. But if I could do a few $100,000 a year in revenue and offset some costs, and I'm near or where I was or beyond a W-2, you're like, sign me up. I'm built a great life around that. And if I don't have to worry as much about who's going to tell me I can go, I mean, is that how you? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, that's the way I'm thinking. But it's not to say that if I don't discover an opportunity in all of my interactions with people that I meet along the way, something comes up, an idea, whether it's some AI enabled marketing platform or something that can assist in sales and marketing effectiveness, that I potentially could get involved in something like that as well.
Oh, I mean, as much as I'm talking like go build your own thing, somebody gives you the right opportunity and you have an out for an exit. I mean, I'd consider it too. It's like, you don't say no to it, but I'm just not going to be single threaded to say I'm only going to go work for somebody. Like, you don't shake a stick at opportunity. If someone goes, hey, can you go run this company that's right in your thing? Or they said, hey, could you become a podcast host of something else? Because we just like how you do it. I'd consider it.
Right.
Because it just have to be the right fit. And you know what I mean? Like you have to be smart about it, because otherwise you're getting single threaded again. But if your main goal is like, I want to make sure I'm controlling my destiny to say yes or no to what I want, as opposed to someone saying, hey, we want you to move to Dallas, you're gone. That's the part you want to leave.
Yeah, that's right. And, too, there's a variety of compensation models where, one of these companies I'm talking to, the opportunity is to join the board and get some equity position or get revenue sharing as this company grows. So maybe not immediate, revenue opportunity, but, you get revenue over time as the company grows.
Yeah, that's great. Let's shift gears a bit. Let's teach somebody about branding. So, and if you can't, you said you focus on challengers. So Coca-Cola doesn't really need help, right? And even if you're the top marketing or law firm or something like that, like talk to the people that are like you right now. They're just starting. Can you kind of lay the ground rules for how to approach your branding and what it is, what it isn't?
Yeah, I think you have to really understand, what is your why? And of course, Simon Sinek is, an expert at that. He came from the marketing world, the advertising agency world, and has done a great job of, branding. Start with why. And I think, following him and learning more from him is a great way to do it. But, figure out your purpose, your why, how you do it and what you do, and articulate each one of those in a way that is authentic to you, and at the same time is going to be meaningful and relevant and add value to your customer base. But if you don't have a strong purpose that's driving you, I think it's harder to to be constantly motivated about your mission, what you're doing, and what's driving you. So I think you have to start there, and then I think you really have to understand, your category and what's going on in your particular space. What are the trends, the macro trends, the micro trends? How does technology fitting into that? How are customers buying? Are they, is it exclusively online? Is it a combination thereof? How do you make those work extremely well together? I have a good friend who is a marketing director for a high-end decorative moldings company, and that's not a category that's growing by leaps and bounds. It's fairly flat, and so it's really all about taking market share. So he has become an expert at e-commerce and created a website called moldings.com. So he's actually selling competitors' products on his website. So I think you have to really pivot in terms of what the market wants, and then build a model that really speaks to and serves the needs of where the market's going. But I think also critically for brands to expand on that why and that purpose is storytelling. And I think the storytelling is what makes it authentic. Stories about you, stories about your brand. And I see so many categories where there's kind of upstarts that are coming out. And I love what they're doing in terms of the storytelling and using Instagram to tell that story, video. And I'm a cyclist. And so one of the things I follow, a lot of people are kind of geek out on equipment and bike brands, but there's a lot of movement in that category, especially because of gravel riding. That's kind of become a more popular type of riding, is that people can get off the road.
That sounds frightening, though. I do believe there are people actively trying to kill cyclists in Atlanta. Just to be fair, I don't cycle. I tried that triathlon thing one time. That was just frightening, to be on a country road with rednecks going by you, going, and you're like, oh God, I thought, what? They can be here. But for you, I'm pretty sure they target you.
So to get off the road is good with the gravel. So that's kind of spawned a whole other movement back to custom made and metal frames, and they're more durable and all this stuff. So all these smaller brands have kind of popped up, and they've all created these stories, and they're not all that different necessarily from each other in terms of the actual product, but they all have a little bit different story. And I find, most of them pretty cool, pretty compelling. So how you tell the story is really critical for your brand. And if you're not a storyteller yourself, find somebody who can help you with that.
Yeah. And telling it in a way that still, falls in line with good marketing principles, like, SEO, it's getting your keywords. When people read it, it's hitting the mark for what they were there looking for. The niche company, it's interesting. When I first started doing my own business, I was like, oh, I want to be able to, help everybody in the US or in the world. And so half of our customers were global. And you find quickly that sometimes the international customers look at they spend a month in their own currency, and they're like, well, that's a lot. So you start losing them more often. So then you switch all your marketing just to US. It's amazing. You don't get any more international customers when that happens. It was like the biggest thing. I'm like, look at that. That's crazy. But then you're like, oh, I still want to do. And as I see these small niche companies that literally serve like maybe 1 million possible people, and maybe 10,000 of those care about cycling, and maybe 50 to 100 really care about what they do, and how they can build a business off of that is unbelievable to me, because it's like, because think about it, like it's such a small thing, but then I think, man, their content's so simple. They just got to talk about what those 100 or 200 people in their local area care about.
Yeah.
And like, it's not like, that's so simple. Like but I had a point to this with telling your story and brand. If you don't have the passion, the true capabilities, like you're good at it, what you're doing, and obviously there's the third circle is people buy stuff, but that doesn't have to be very big. But if you don't have the passion, or you're not very good at it, you will, that actual model will always break.
Yeah.
Because you won't create content, you won't create stories, you won't, when people interact with you, they won't see that you share the same passion as them. They don't feel like you have your back. It's going to fail. In my opinion. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's that right there. If you don't have that passion and capability set together, ooh, you're done.
That is at the core of your brand, is that passion. So if you don't have that and you can't create stories from that, then you're right. It's not going to work long term. And I think, to your point too, these smaller companies, I mean, they're going after, Seth Godin refers to it in his book, This Is Marketing, the smallest viable market. So you're going after like-minded people that have the same passions as you, that have, similar interests. You're focusing like a laser on those kinds of companies. And it might be, to start with a very small number of people, but then you branch out once you're successful. But you have to really focus on serving the needs of that small community, and then you can branch out. And that's exactly what Apple did when you think back to, the early Apple days, and think different was their whole mantra. So it can happen. It's just, you have to build that coalition, those brand zealots. And then I think also, how can you authentically interact with influencers that can really take your brand to the next level as well? And that's something I've done in my career with countertop companies, Hunstone Quartz. We probably worked with 30 or 40 influencers a year. We would give them, product, 1 or 2 slabs of quartz. They would put it into their projects. They would create video content, and it's amazing what the content came out to be, how authentic it was, and how much that built our brand and created more exposure to millions of consumers and designers along the way.
Yeah. And you're noting something here. I think maybe it's unsaid. When you're talking about cycling a niche, that's an expensive thing. So people pay good money. So therefore you can actually make money. If you're going to do a niche thing that people are paying a few $100 for, and there's only a few hundred people who care, it's not a good business, because you can't make enough money off it. It might be a good hobby. It might be a good side hustle. But when you're picking something to get into, you're talking about helping companies, not individuals, with brands. And that's a point in distinction when you describe your own story right here, is you're not focusing on solopreneurs per se. You're focusing on helping their organizations, because you want to work with that CEO. You want to work with that 10 to 20 person, 100 million to 10 million kind of company, the mid-size.
Right.
And I think what you just did there is really smart, because you never say individual, say business. So people sometimes mix those things. Hey, we work with people as individuals. Be specific on those conversations, and that helps define your brand. I'll be quiet.
No question. And I think related to that, the whole B2B, B2C conversation, there's a lot of commonalities between those two. But I think in the B2B world, I think a lot of opportunity is being missed, because the emotional connection that's either there or has the potential to be there is even higher with B2B than B2C. And it's because the stakes are higher. If you're a business buyer, you're buying a service or a product that plays a big role in the success of your company. If you make a bad decision, then that could be bad for your career. So when you make a good decision, you're extremely emotionally connected to your brand. And there was a study done by the Conference Executive Board a few years ago. Great white paper on that study. Be glad to share it. That really quantifies, that increase with B2B versus B2C. And Granger, I think, is a great example of a great B2B marketer that really has tapped into that emotional connection, with buyers, for those who get it done. And that's that facility manager, and they're connecting right into that person's, what their lives are like. So I think for all B2B marketers, whether it's a service or a product or whatever, don't underestimate the power of emotional connection and storytelling to your audience or with your audience.
Well, and I love about Granger. They're saying there, those who get it done. It also taps on the fact that the thankless jobs a lot of those people are in, the underappreciated nature of it, and how that wears on them. And at least one company understands this. Like, right, it's really it's smart, because I'm sure they surveyed, like, what's the best, worst parts of your job? Like, no one gives a shit. No one cares what we do until they do it, then they forget about it. I'm sure it's something like that. It's like, it's
no question. They
and
truly
they
are
are
heroes.
People don't understand, like, without facilities, the guy that, in our the gym I go to, this guy cleans endlessly, but he's like a machine. I'm thinking, man, people don't realize how good of a job that guy's doing. He's never in anyone's way. He's actively just working this. And I'm like, this place falls apart. This guy's not, they don't have that guy here. And
No
it's like,
question.
I think you have to appreciate some stuff like that. You just, that you're at, because it's a job you probably wouldn't do. And anyway, so I love their branding.
Brilliant understanding of their audience and their persona, creating personas. I mean, that's really
Talk
key.
about that. So what's like, I don't know how to create a persona. I'm more looks at like who's bought our stuff, right? And then I'm like, all right, let's go find people like that. But how do you create a persona when you're maybe your first starting?
I think that's evolving with AI. I think there's some AI platforms that are helping you to do that more quickly and I don't know, more effectively, but certainly more quickly. But in my last role, I actually hired a researcher and strategist to do that. And so we created a survey. We gathered our customers up. We did a combination of phone and online surveys to really just go through a series of questions about how do our customers think about things? How do they think about their lives? How do they think about the category? How do they think about our brand? And it takes a very skilled, researcher to come up with the right questions to do that, I think. But we came up with 4 different personas that represented probably over 90% of our customer base. And it was incredible when she presented it, how she was able to capture, who these people are and what's important to them. And one of those personas was Jean, somebody over the age of 75. She didn't get her propane delivered on time. Literally in the middle of winter, she could freeze. She couldn't get out of her house, perhaps, might be shut in. So the importance of getting your energy delivered to you on time in the right way, was critical, mission critical. So I think that, it can be done without an extensive study like that. I think there's ways to do it that aren't quite as involved. But and again, I think there's more and more platforms that are coming out that you can use those platforms and the data that you have about your customers, their purchasing data, to pull that together. So I think be open to looking at different ways to do that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, your persona is you're gonna have your your demographics, what drives them, even an image maybe of that person of who you're talking to, and then how do you use that? Certainly in terms of your language, but also it could be for your inside teams as well, customer care, sales. Hey, these really truly are the emotional things that we're dealing with our customers that you need to understand when you're working with them.
Yeah. I know, and I know when we work with customers specifically around, let's say, LinkedIn or other social, you have very little time and space to clarify what you do or how you do or what the benefit is. And I know, and around that kind of persona, understanding what desperate problem you solve for who is like the first piece. Like, and I were talking about, I think the joking, like, people don't care about if it's a hybrid work model. What they care about is, if I don't get steady revenue on my company, my wife's going to leave me because she's tired of me borrowing money from our house. That's a desperate problem that the CEO would want to solve. Not, should we let our company be remote, or they don't care. What they care about is, can we get the right people to make the money so I can stop being stressed out at home?
And sometimes it takes asking one more question or 2 more questions or
taking a risk,
that trust, taking a risk. Right. Yeah. That's right. And then what's the right context and environment to ask it to get the real answer.
I encourage them drinking alcohol and you not. That way you're in control.
That's right.
And you can see, are they loosened up yet, or did they become angry?
Yeah, that's right.
All kinds of techniques.
So, and just to add on to that, the whole AI. I attended the Salesforce Agent Force World Tour last week when it was in Atlanta here. And it's just incredible what they're doing with all of these different platforms that they have. And obviously Salesforce is the leading CRM, but how they're pulling in AI in terms of, sales coaching and, real-time feedback. If you're, communicating with a customer, whether it's email or on the phone, delivering up, hey, you should offer this, or this might be your response to that answer. So I think it's not a replacement, for that sales rep, for instance. It's just enhancing and improving the efficiency of what they do so they can spend their time on the high value stuff. But
good. Well, I'm sure this exists. I said, it'd be great. though I don't want it to exist because I think pretty good at this part, but an AI that listens to your podcast and says, hey, here's some data. I want you to ask a question about that. Well,
It's coming.
something that helps the host sound
Coming.
smarter.
I got a new business idea right now.
I would take that right now. Actually, one that makes you sound smarter. Like, well, I think some of the data recently showed, and like, how's this guy know everything?
Yeah.
I probably could do that with Zapier right now. Like, probably just put the feed in somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but you're right. So like, but using AI to help the situation, what it does is allows you to potentially, because humans are still involved. So it allows you to not to have so highly trained people sometimes, just people who can execute using those technologies. It changes the nature of the kind of the intelligent worker, if you will.
Yeah.
Because, and so anyway, back to brand. I want to come back to that real quick though. So you can use brand to define these personas. You can use it to do your strategy. I've used GPT to help define some stuff, but I don't think it's good enough. I still think there's a nuance piece that's missing, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's a story or it's just like the right word and emotion. Like, where do you think AI, I guess is my question, drops the ball as it pertains to branding? And where should you pick it up? Like this thing will run like, let's say 25 of the 26 miles of a marathon. You have to run that last mile. Is that too far, or should you pick it up a little quicker or not use it at all, I guess, to some degree?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know if AI will ever be able to fully capture, and understand human emotion. I think it certainly can understand, messaging and what messaging and it offers to put out based on, consumer behavior and how that's going. But when you think about brands, the core of that brand is human connection, or at least it should be. Maybe in the future, emotion is less. I don't know, because brands, I think, are going to be able to be so dialed in, even beyond where they are now, to what you want as a customer, and that is a little bit scary. It's already there, where you're getting served up ideas about, hey, you might like this product, and this is the exact product I had on my mind that came up. So that to the consumer, is double-sided. I mean, obviously it saves time. It's like, great, they know me, they delivered up the product that I actually was thinking about. On the other hand, they know me too well. So I think, the emotional connection, the emotional side of that brand, understanding human emotions, how well AI is going to be able to do that. But I think a lot of brands, it's not just the online presence, but it's the brand is being delivered by people, and it could be events, trade shows, a dealer, distribution. And so there's always got to be that human, I think, connection. And I think, you've seen e-commerce brands, create stores and showrooms, whereas they maybe were only e-commerce before. So they wanted that physical presence. And there's certain brands and products categories that, you want to touch and feel the product before you buy it, especially if it's an expensive product. At the same time, people are buying cars without.
Well, I was going to say, like, well, that's
them.
true, but I think that's an opportunity to say, no, you don't need to. You can actually try it for 7 days. Don't wreck it, and you can bring it back. What a concept! Like, I mean, like that's to me, that's how it should be, because that way, I'm like, the chance of me returning a car, especially if you're coming from an older car, which is almost always the case. You rarely go from new car to new car.
Right.
I'm in like a 2013 Honda minivan. I could get in the base model of anything, and it's going to look like the most technology-driven car I've ever been in, period. It's going to be nicer. It's going to smell good. So, like, the chance of me returning whatever car I get in is probably really small. So, anyway.
Lower risk, for sure.
I probably actually should go do that car rental for a year where you get a new car every month and try it out. And I don't know if you've seen that. Like, you pay something and you can say, hey, I'll try a truck this month. I'll try whatever this month. That might be a better use.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's a friend of mine who did that for like 6 months till they found the car they wanted, and then they bought the car. That's how they did it.
Beautiful. Smart.
It's like $600 a month. It wasn't that much.
No, smart. Makes sense. Absolutely. Go for it.
When you buy cars once every decade and a half, you might want to slow your roll a little bit, not jump into the latest bad boy.
No question. I love that.
Well, just conscious of time here. Who is it right now? Like, they called you, you're like, hey, I'm perfectly fit for this industry, this client, this size, and this is exactly, like, give me the pitch. Like, who can get a hold of you, and who should it be, and how are you going to help them?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of situations where the first one could be, it's a smaller company, it's maybe newer to the market, the U.S. market, or that product category, where they're just trying to get a foothold and figure out the way forward. And they need people that have, had experience in this market. Specifically for me, it's the built environment, as I call it, but that's building products, home improvement, commercial interiors products. So across a spectrum of product categories, whether it's flooring, building products, windows and doors, and services related to that as well, whether it's distributors, wholesalers. And so I think that is one. And then the other is a more established company. Let's say it could be a $100 million plus revenue company that is struggling to take share, to grow. Obviously, the market has been a little weird the last year or so. And so, how do we break out of the constraints of the market and try something different, or try a different approach, or more strategic? How do we leverage customer experience? How do we leverage online resources, platforms to really take our marketing and our customer connection to the next level? And there's a variety of ways to do that. So I think for me, again, it's B2B or B2B2C in the built environment, or related adjacent kinds of companies in B2B, where I can help them have introspection on what is working, what's not. Are there ways we can align sales and marketing better? Trying to think like a chief revenue officer, chief commercial officer, and get all the moving parts and pieces working better together by bringing in the right people, the right capabilities, and pulling in the right strategy.
Yeah, that's great. And you're definitely wired to help that company with the mindset to invest in it, because they know that they'll need to invest in branding in a way that they've become out of touch. Maybe it's like a 20 or 30-year-old company. It's like, hey, we used to have a good brand. Now I feel like it's meh.
Yeah.
It's a perfect scenario for you to come in and say, well, let's look at what was good about it and what still carries. Because some of the things like, trust and accountability and responsibility and all those things still play. They've got to be communicated maybe slightly differently now, or more often. And I think that's the kind of company that's, got capital, it's got idea for investment. Maybe it's got the same marketing people in place for 20 years. And as a leader, you're like, I love them, I trust them, but they're not fresh turkeys. So we got to bring some new ideas in. You'd be a good fit for that for sure as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for sure. I think finding the right people. And again, I'm not a technical. I don't come from an IT background or a data background, but I know people that do, and to bring that in. And I think if I was a marketing person coming up, in school or coming out of school, I would really focus in on the data side of things, and what are the platforms that work with data and work with ERP, and how do we link those together? That's going to be critical going forward to make all of these AI enabled platforms and work. Period.
Yeah, listen, you got to use it to some degree, but I think some of the branding is just some people talking, getting knowledge and doing something with it. That's a big piece of, and asking people how do you
constant learning. It's constant learning. No doubt.
Yeah, you cannot extinguish that torch at any point, or it doesn't work. If there was a question I should have asked you, Mark, and I forgot to or didn't do it, this isn't set up. I always ask people this because sometimes I'm like, we should have talked about that. What would that question have been?
There's a few, but one just kind of weird off the wall. It could be, what famous drummer sat in with my band?
I was thinking, what drummer did sit in with your band besides Ringo Starr? Who was it?
It was Bob Burns, who was the original drummer of Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Huh.
Yes.
At least you weren't
and he lived in Cartersville, so his daughter was friends with the daughter of our bass player. We had a band called No Particular Reason, and he got invited to this St. Patrick's Day party, and he sat in. It was cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Was he good? Was he as good as your other drummer, or better? Or could you notice?
I don't think he had played in a while, so I'll leave it at that. But it was a thrill to meet him, and to have him do that and sit into my drum set and get the autograph sticks and all that. So it was pretty cool.
You gave him notes. Hey man, next time you do this.
No. He was as good as you could expect. For probably not playing for I don't know how many years, but it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That band went through some triumphs, by the way. Like they've been
Oh,
through, man. There was that came up in conversation the other day. I think just like in our neighborhood, walking around, like I didn't realize, like kind of, I don't know, Google it, the history of Leonard Skinner. I think there's a movie about it even.
yeah.
And Mark,
Ups and
thanks for
downs.
coming on the show today. I know it's the holiday season. I appreciate you taking some time out to come here and tell your story. And I definitely will invite you for the follow up once you've gotten down the road a little bit, what you learned, what you're doing now, and kind of touch base with you later. I'm looking forward to doing some of those next year of
Awesome.
follow ups.
Thomas, thanks so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and you have a absolutely great platform here to help people. And kudos for creating this and helping people so much with the content and the people that you're bringing on. So thanks, and happy holidays to your listeners and to you as well.
You're well. Thank you. I'm gonna put you in the periwinkle room. I'll be right back. Thank you, Mark, for coming on. Mark's listen, get a hold of him right at linkedin.com/Mark Abbas. Mark B. Abbas. Actually, I just noticed that MarkBabbas. It's a lot of B's. This is your first time here listening. I hope it's the first of many. I hope you come back. If you want to be a guest, just reach out to me actually on linkedin.com/N/Thomas Helfrich. That's an easy way to do it. Or you can go to neverbeenpromoted.com if you'd like to come on or have any feedback. Hate mails accepted. I will read it. I won't like it, but I'll read it. And criticism, though, is encouraged. So I appreciate it. But positively, go like the show. Go do something cool with it. Go refer it to a friend. Get out there, and most importantly, and go unleash your entrepreneur. Thank you for